All right, so our next presenter is Elysia Doty. And Alicia's going to talk about her techno-Nordic dream hat. So welcome.
Hi, everyone. Ready? My name's Elysia. I'm also a visual artist. Kind of an emerging artist. I got into it a couple years ago. And this is kind of my personal journey in the last, let's say, 30 years. So this is me, 30 years, about 20 years ago in my Nordic dream hat. And I just recently started calling it that. I kind of feel like it's a talisman. It's something that just kind of popped up in my house again in the last couple months. And I found it, and it brought me out of a pretty deep kind of sad depression. Like all the chaos in the world right now has really been getting to me. And then that was a picture of my kids. I have 2 adult children, and I've spent the last 25 years really focusing on being a mom and a parent and kind of losing myself in making sure that their dreams were coming true. We've zigzagged all over the East Coast. We've lived in Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York City, Vermont, Massachusetts. And finally, we got to move to Vermont about 10 years ago. And this was our dream property. And then the world kind of went chaos, and the pandemic started. I think both my kids were in high school then, and I don't know. This picture really represents how it kind of felt to me. Everything was, who knew what was going to happen. It was really isolating, and I spent the time there taking pictures and pictures of this pond just about every day, in the different light. I started a daily sketchbook practice, and I really started thinking about reconnecting with my artistic self. And then we moved back up to Burlington because we were in southern Vermont for a while, and I started working at Gardner Supply. And I think this is when the gnomes started to show up. It was hiding in one of the boxes that I was packing. It was kind of funny. And then, the world, again, was sort of bananas. My daughter had gone off to college, and then she had to come home for health reasons. So all of a sudden, I found myself able to take a cross-country road trip. I flew out to Tahoe to pick her up, and I'd always wanted to see the spiral jetty by Robert Smithson. I'd written a paper about it in college, and it was just a little off track for us. Of course, my 21-year-old daughter wasn't that into it, and but I did manage to take a nice meditative walk out to the center of the spiral, and I swear I heard a lion roar, but when I opened my eyes, I didn't see anything. But my daughter was leaning on the horn of the car because she had refused to get out. So maybe it was just her. It was like a telepathic message from her. We got home, I got back, and then I started another new job. And by now I have 2 jobs, and I was working for an ad tech company, and it required a hell of a lot of travel. So it was airplanes, and then this is another spiral, walking up 7 flights of stairs to a conference on the 7th floor in France. And honestly, my health really started to get bad. I consider this is the breakfast of champions here. Not eating, kind of almost getting into a manic state, being in different time zones, different hotels. Back in France again. So we went from Las Vegas, Miami, New York, back to Las Vegas, Arizona, California, back to France, and this was all just for work. But this summer, I found this church, this Baroque church in this small town in France, and inside, I'm really looking for these little glimmers of hope. Inside, I found a statue of Saint Anne and a statue of Saint Joseph, who my grandmother was Anne, and my grandfather was Joseph, and it just felt like it was important to light a candle and honor them, because, you know, I felt like my angels were with me. And then I got home, and work continued, and, you know, here's a little gnome that sits on my kitchen counter, and a little pin, you know, reminder to let that shit go. And I did eventually resign from that position to try to focus more on art. And I did my first art hop, which was a wild 3 days of lots of talking to lots of people. And now I finally have my own studio space outside of my house, and these are some of, you know, the things I think about while I'm making art. And I hope to be able to do it more. And in between all the chaos, I planted a garden this summer. And even though I wasn't here all summer, I was so happy to find this little heart-shaped tomato next to my garden gnome. And there were lots of really good tomatoes, actually. And then the hat showed up again. And this is my son. And hopefully, you know, he's taking a little break from college, too. We're all trying to find our way in this time. And, you know, I'm fine. He's going to take the hat. And hopefully, you know, follow his dreams. And then this is a little sketch I made. It's my hope for, you know, world peace, the end of endless war, peace in the Middle East, and, you know, just a quiet, reflective little gnome. And that's it.